Sex does not have to be a lot of effort, and it's a lot more enjoyable when you are an active participant. Now, when I ask couples what they do to make their sex life enjoyable, their response is absolutely nothing. Unfortunately, what they might be doing instead is making their sex life worse. That starts here right now. Hi, I'm Dr. Trina Read, sexologist, and welcome to the Pursuit of Pleasure podcast, where we do a deep dive into what makes women in long-term relationships excited to have sex. Thank you for subscribing, and if your relationship needs a tune-up, and FYI, we all can use a tune-up once in a while, then please check out my 5 Pleasure Secrets of Satisfied Couples Masterclass. The link will be in the description. What I know for sure is most couples have 1, maybe 2 sexual scripts that center around the she comes first, orgasm-focused sex that they do over and over again. And then they are confused why their sex life has become so boring. Yet they feel trapped and are unhappy, but don't know how to ask for something different. So here are the things that will create a safe space for your sexuality to open up and become mutually fulfilling. Number 1. Be the architect of your sexual pleasure. Because you are in charge of your sexual happiness, you need to be the architect of your sexual experience and to chart out what that looks like. So creating a sexual blueprint is a structured way to understand yourself, your needs, and your wants. As we already discussed, most couples are pretty clear on what they don't want and focus on that. They want more or less sex. They resent or feel obligated to have sex. They have mismatched libidos or different sexual tastes. But have you ever sat down together as a couple and worked out what you do want? Probably not, because that means the trifecta of what couples typically actively avoid, and that is communication, changing your sexual patterns, and being vulnerable to admit things your partner may or may not want to hear. Number 2 is simmering. Genuine sexual connection and satisfaction is everything you do in between those times that you have sex. It's how you fill the 24/7, 365 days a year to make you and your partner feel desirable. So here's the rub. Most couples go from positively anticipating sex when they're dating to negatively anticipating sex when real life hits. As a result, couples may start touching less because the only time they have meaningful touch is when it's time to have sex. And that means touch becomes a loaded question. Are you available for sex? Or an initiation? Let's have sex. So touch is a cornerstone of your sexual arousal and desire. In fact, most women experience sexual attraction when they feel emotionally connected to her partner. So touching every single day in a non-sexual way is one of the fastest ways that you can go back to positively anticipating sex. What you're doing is creating the all-important emotional connection with this touch without the goal of orgasm and intercourse. Number 3, participate, don't spectate. So women have been socialized to be passive players in their sexual situation and do not tend to initiate sex. In fact, studies show that men tend to initiate sex 3 times more often as women do in long-term heterosexual relationships. Too many women wait for sex to happen to her and then go along with whatever is presented. Not surprisingly, most women don't like or want what is offered, but here's the important part, she says nothing. If you want sex to be interesting, you need to put some thought into it. And here's the big but. Couples are terrified of planning sex. They get caught in the trap of believing spontaneous sex is the only way to initiate sex. And if this is you, then you're probably digging yourself deep into a sex rut. Number 4 is her pleasure spectrum. Instead of narrowing sex down to the 3 hot spots, the penis, the breasts, the vulva, please focus on her entire body. I like to call it her pleasure spectrum, but if that's too woo-woo for you, call it whatever you want. The point of the pleasure spectrum is that it's a vast range of all the sexual pleasure that her body and your body contains, and there's a lot, like a ton of sexual pleasure waiting and wanting to come out and play. Now, suppose you don't know how to tap into her pleasure spectrum. So taking the focus off her clit and putting it onto her entire body and opening up her pleasure spectrum is naturally going to bring a fresh, new dimension that's going to give your sex a soulful depth. It's also going to create a healthy mindset that bolsters her sexual self-esteem. And this new confidence will make it easier for you both to be vulnerable. And by the way, vulnerability is where your toe-curling sexual satisfaction lives. Suddenly, the trifecta of good couple sex, communication, changing your sexual patterns, and being vulnerable to admit things to your partner that they may or may not want to hear. Bottom line, sex does not have to be a lot of effort, and it's a lot more enjoyable when you're touching and simmering, participating, not spectating, and putting the focus on her pleasure spectrum, which takes the two of you figuring it out together. And if you like this episode, please watch my next podcast where we discuss, is stress and anxiety killing your sex drive? Well, you're not alone. All the chaos and uncertainty is making so many people worldwide uncertain, stressed, and feeling financially vulnerable. And guess what? Mind-blowing, wild and crazy sex, when you feel this way, it's just not going to happen. So you are going to learn 5 practical and easy ways that work within your busy life to create a couple connection to make your libido and bond stronger.